Alright, what is up YouTube? The Mummy Dust here, back with another video featuring the Ferocious Cup. So I did participate in the Richmond Virginia Cup Mega Tournament with Kang, and I was running an Alolan Ninetales, and these are all the standard movesets, so nothing too special about them, except for the fact that Umbreon does not have Last Resort, because no matter how hard I tried, I could not find one. So unfortunately, it knows Foul Play and Dark Pulse and Snarl. B-Barrel, Nidoqueen with Earth Power and Earthquake, Skuntank with Crunch and Sludge Bomb, and Alolan Sandslash with Bulldoze and Ice Punch. So Alolan Sandslash, I was debating forever on my 6th slot, and it was something I kind of threw together. The day before the tournament, and I was testing it out. I was going to try Suicune. I was going to try, I can't remember what else I was going to try. Donphan. I was going to try a bunch of things. Basically, something that I figured could possibly counter their Umbreon besides using my Alolan Ninetales. So I did kind of get in my head a lot in this tournament over the fact that I did not have the Last Resort Umbreon, and it was something that I'll kind of talk about in this video, is whether I think that the Ferocious Cup was fair or not, because depending on whether you had Umbreon with Last Resort or not, depended on how you used your Alolan Ninetales. It depended on this, it depended on that. It was how you even use your own Umbreon. So there are some matches that, I straight up lost them because I didn't have Last Resort Umbreon, and because I got that in my head, so I didn't really play around it as much as I should have. So we're going to go ahead and get right into the first match here against yes, or something like that. So we lead Umbreon and we catch their B-Barrel, so this is perfect. We don't need Last Resort in this matchup. We're just going to go ahead and hit the Foul Play right away. And don't expect shields on B-Barrel's side. So I think they can get to Double Surf, or like maybe one Hyper Fang and Surf against it. So he switches into Ninetales. We're going to switch into our Skuntank, which is a soft Ninetales counter. And we're going to go ahead and crunch, because you can double crunch the Alolan Ninetales with Skuntank. So we get to the second crunch there, and he's either going to have to burn both his shields or let the Ninetales go down. And he does burn both shields. And then we also have our own Alolan Ninetales to go ahead and finish it off. So we're not too worried about either move that it throws. It's not going to do too much damage. And then we'll have the 2 shields for Umbreon to go up against whatever else they possibly have in the back, which I assume is probably Nidoqueen, which ended up being the thing that I faced a lot. So in this case, he actually brings back in B-Barrel, and we just go ahead and charm it down. And hopefully we can hit this next Pokemon with a charge move. It is Nidoqueen, so I saw a lot of players have Nidoqueen in the back, so something that they use to counter people's Alolan Ninetales. So we go ahead and do take this first game, and go into the second game leading 1-0 in our first match. So at this point I was feeling very good about it. Did notice the Nidoqueen, so I was planning on bringing Alolan Sandslash for the Nidoqueen, and I just end up getting outpicked here. So he leads B-Barrel again. I think he actually led B-Barrel all 3 games against me. So B-Barrel does beat Ninetales in the one shield scenario because it can double serve. So we're going to save our Ninetales for their Umbreon. We're just going to go ahead and try and farm down this B-Barrel. So at this point, I thought things were going pretty well for me, and building up some energy. In comes Nidoqueen. So we should be able to get 2 crunches off before it does an Earth Power on us. It's pretty close. So there we get it off, and we're in a good scenario. And I think the Nidoqueen just farmed up so much energy. because we bring in the Sand Slash, and it had 2 Earth powers, like, pretty much ready to go. So, not much that I could do. I don't think it would have mattered if I hit the Ice Punch, because it would have shielded. But, yeah. Just, I had it, too. Like, I brought the Alolan Sandslash for the Nidoqueen, and it just didn't end up working out for me. So, just unfortunate there. Bibarel is just an absolute beast. It is underrated. I did not use it enough on my team in these cups. But we're going to go ahead and go into Game 3 here. We're going to study their team a little bit more. I tried to cut most of this out, but I did kind of want to talk about how not having Last Resort Umbreon affects you. So it's hard to lead with Umbreon, because if they have Last Resort on their Umbreon, you pretty much put yourself in a terrible situation. And it's also, in a way, it's hard to keep it in the back. So a good thing to do is, like, if they swap in like their Nidoqueen or their like Bibarel or something like that, then you can lead that. So he leads Bibarel the 3rd time in a row, and I was pretty scared to lead my Umbreon, just on the fact that he had his Umbreon with Last Resort. So we do lead Bibarel. We try and get bait here, and it doesn't work. So we're going to go ahead and switch out into Skunk Tank and build up some energy. And this is just a hard situation because I already did use the shield, and I just invest these shields way too early. Now I have 0 shields left, and if he has a Alolan Ninetales to counter my Umbreon, it's pretty much over. And he's just going to be able to, like, look at this. Like, this is his first Pokemon, and I burned both of my shields, and I lost my Pokemon, my Skunk Tank. So we're just in a terrible situation here, just not having a good counter for Bibarel. Even if I did, he probably has a Alolan Ninetales in the back to go ahead and counter my Umbreon. So here we go for Ice Punch on the Nidoqueen. And we do get it off, and then we switch into our Umbreon so that we can kind of save that, because, you know, any charge move from Nidoqueen is absolutely going to destroy that. And in the back, he has Alolan Ninetales, which is just absolutely going to destroy us. And at this point, I just revealed that I don't have Last Resort. Yeah, and even if I did, it wouldn't have mattered there. I couldn't have double Last Resorted and beat that, so we're going to go ahead and go into, I think this is like my 3rd match. My second opponent didn't have Pokemon that were like close to 1500. They were like in the 1300s. I don't think it had a double move on the Vaporeon. The Suicune. So I just left that one out. But I did win round 2. This is round 3, I believe. And we're just going to go ahead and try and get a couple surfs off on this Umbreon. Try and put some shield pressure on there, and then farm it down with our next Pokemon. So we do get to that other surf. And then at this point, the Umbreon is going to defeat the Bibarel, and we will be able to bring in our next Pokemon and farm down what little health the Umbreon has left. I could have also shielded there, but I knew that they were doing that on purpose, so they didn't have very much health for me to farm down with on my next Pokemon. So then they bring in their Ninetales, and this is where I make a mistake. I wanted to get in the extra charm, and then for some reason I still hit the Psyshock afterwards, so I don't know what I was thinking. And then they get in their extra charm, and leaves me with like nothing, and bring in Umbreon, and they have a shield, and it's just over at this point. And then you'll see in the next match something, and it actually ends up being pretty close, but in the next match something similar happens with the Alolan Ninetales. So people talk about how you want to play the Alolan Ninetales mirror, and the main problem is if you don't have an Umbreon with Last Resort, and they do, and they kill your Ninetales with their Ninetales, and then they have their Umbreon versus your Umbreon, and you don't have last resort, and they're gonna win that. So if that's like your final like battle, then you just lose the match. So it's something that you have to try and avoid as a player who doesn't have that moveset. So as you can see, we still make it pretty close there. So if we would have done that with the Ninetales, look how close it is. I mean, it's just, oh, it's so close. But we do lose the first battle of match 3, or round 3, I should say. But we're going to go ahead and go back in, I believe, with like a similar lineup. I did end up favoring Babero a little bit more, but I really like Skuntank in this as like a safe switch. And Skuntank can beat Umbreon as long as you do have a 1 shield advantage over the Umbreon with straight sludge bombs. So it was really nice to go to the Richmond tournament. I met a bunch of people that I'm in chats with, Telegram group, all sorts of stuff like that. So here comes the mirror match, and this is what I'm talking about. So this time I do want to try and get to the Psyshock and win the CMP tie. So I tapped it and I didn't win it, but I wanted to use that charge move. So it didn't register my charge move, so I don't know what happened there. But then I lost a charm again. And instead of being up 2 shields and bringing in my Skuntank to farm down, it's an even shield matchup. So it's not ideal. It's still kind of what I wanted in the end, but I should have had if I would have won the CMP tie, and then they used their charge move to defeat my Ninetales, I wouldn't have shielded. So then I would have had 2 shields, brought in the Skuntank, and farmed it down the rest of the way and had a ton of energy to deal with this Umbreon. So here I get a little over aggressive. I should have just went straight for the charge move, but I do try and get a crunch bait here to see if they'll burn that shield trying to save the Umbreon, and they don't fall for it. So unfortunately I switch into my Umbreon at this point, knowing that they do not have their Alolan Ninetales anymore. And I think that, at this much health, I can defeat the Umbreon in the mirror. So we're just going to go ahead and build up a bunch of energy for whatever Pokemon's coming in next. Foul play the Umbreon and, get a little bit of more farming in. And we're up a shield, and it's Lanoon, so it's pretty much a similar scenario as the last time, but this time we have the shield, and she does not. So we're just going to go ahead and keep going for foul plays. After we get hit by this dig, which still doesn't do a ton of damage. Umbreon is just such a tank. That's why it's still worth running on my team, even though I do not have that move. And I did make sure that I had good PvP IVs on this Umbreon to make up for the fact that I didn't have that moveset. And there we go, foul play down, and end up taking this game. And then we're going to go ahead and go into a game 3. And in game 3, we're going to lead with Umbreon against Skuntank. So this is somewhat of a negative matchup for me because I don't have Last Resort. So again, here's another matchup that's affected by it. So we're just going to go ahead and queue up the foul play to get hit by the move, and then we do end up getting an extra snarl in. So we're going to hit it with foul play. Foul play still does a decent chunk to Skuntank, but not nearly as much as Last Resort would. So at this point, I do have to burn a shield. If I did have Last Resort, I would not have to. But unfortunately, I have really bad luck trying to get one. So we're basically going to bring this Skuntank down to Charm range and Charm it down. And then in comes the Ninetales. So for the 3rd match in a row, we end up with Ninetales mirroring against each other. This time I'm going to go for the charge move first, burn the shield, and just farm down. And then we do still have Skuntank left, so we're going to bring Skuntank back in. Oh no, I led with Umbreon this time. So we're going to bring Skuntank in. We're going to farm just because it was going to be an Ice Beam, and it's not like my shield would have been as useful in any other scenario. So at this point, I'm assuming, or I didn't realize that the switch occurred, and that the Ninetales is still in the back. But I figured that the only way that I could win was to hit this with double Sludge Bomb and then swap out and try and have my Umbreon tank the hits and possibly Poison Jab back down in the end. So we do switch, and at this point we catch a foul play, which was just absolutely amazing that it wasn't last resort. So we're going to hit with our own foul play, which we do get that last shield. And here comes another one, and I'm for sure this is last resort this time, and it's foul play again. And we end up being able to... I don't know if this person ever used last resort against me, and I didn't ask her if she had it or not. But I would assume with the shiny Eevee, 90% of the time or shiny Umbreon, that it's going to have that. So at this point, she says good game, takes her hand out and everything, and I'm looking down at the screen and I see this come in, and I'm like, oh my god. I totally forgot this Ninetales was even still a thing, and I just literally got super lucky and was able to Poison Jab it down. So we did take that. So I did go, I won one, I lost one, and then, no, I lost one, I won one, I lost, and then I won. So that was actually round 4. This is round 5. But my screen recording, as you can see, I had it pulled down a little bit that time, has been giving me some issues as to just stopping recording randomly, so I'm not sure what that's about. And this always seems to happen to me when, and this is why I dropped Suicune, is because when I would face an Umbreon, I could not get my Bubble Beam off before they would foul play. But whenever I face a Suicune, I swear, look at that, 2 times in a row, they get the CMP tie. 2 times in a row. It's so frustrating. So where CMP used to be a thing where you'd switch it back and forth, and then if we went to game 3, you would know who would have it. Now it's random, but I don't know if that was 3 times in a row. No, that time it wasn't. So somehow they got ahead of me on energy. I think Bubble Beam probably cost a little bit less energy than foul play in the end. And he's just straight Bubble Beaming me. At this point, I didn't even care if my Umbreon went down, because it's not going to do anything else to any of the other Pokemon on his team with its attack being that lowered. So the same concept here when he brought the Bibarel in. I'm like, why do I even care if this thing dies? It's so Bubble Beam down that it's not going to do anything to anything else. So we're just going to foul play until we do die. And at this point, he's just trying to build up, as much energy as possible. Luckily, he does expend some there because he would have been at max energy. So do die with a foul play. It's not a big deal. We bring in the Alolan Ninetales to farm down the Bibarel. And then we're going to save it just in case there is an Umbreon in the back. We pretty much switched at the same time. So here we are again with the fact that Skuntank can double crunch on the Ninetales, and if he really wants that Ninetales, he is going to have to shield both times in order to save it. So we go for the second crunch, and we do get a shield again. And then we are going to have our Ninetales face off against that one. I'm not sure why I shielded there, to be honest. Both of his other Pokemon were super low, so I figured one charm could kill each of them, except for Suicune. So yeah, I almost lost still. Here comes Bubble Beam again. We're just going to farm down, and then we're going to hit Psyshock, or Ice Beam, doesn't matter, on the Bibarel coming in. So we're able to win there against the Suicune lead. The person who did win this cup, Fly Eagles, he used Suicune like a master. He kept getting shield baits with the bubble beams. He'd hit the hydro pumps when he wasn't shield baiting. He was just, he was getting, everything was going right for him in that one. So congrats to him and everybody else who did much better than I did. I did go 4-4 in the end, but it was really nice to meet a bunch of these people that I've been talking to in chats for a while. Put some faces to the names. That's how we go. I got to meet Mr. Valor Up, Phil Hugs, Hang the Moon, That Boy Muck, which I face here later, Kaiser Niner, just a bunch of people. I met Mason, Valor Ash again. I got to meet Toshi for the first time. So it was a really good experience. Unfortunately, my performance wasn't up to par, but like I said, I really got it stuck in my head that I wasn't going to do as well as I could have if I had the Umbreon. So that was my fault as well. We do get hit with a Grass Knot, and then we're going to have Umbreon to finish up, and it's just 1 HP charge moves drive me absolutely nuts. Unless I'm on the right end of it, where it's I have 1 HP left and I'm throwing a charge move, and I win the match because of it, or win the matchup. So here we go against Bibarrel again, and I'm absolutely just going to town, just being super aggressive. And we're going to go ahead and throw that. I think I used Dark Pulse this time. Nope, Foul Play again. And we're going to do another one. Unfortunately, he did get a Water Gun in there. It's hard to do these self-piggybacks or these piggyback 2.0s with moves like Water Gun where they only take 1 turn. Charm and Poison Jab, some of those other moves seem to be a little bit better on that end. So in this match here, I think this is the final match of my winning streak, where I won 3 games. I won 3 games in a row. So after starting off 1-2, I won 3 games in a row and ended up 4-2, and then I ended up dropping 2 in a row to some really good players. So we led with Nidoqueen. We got the matchup we wanted, and we're going to go ahead and try and beat this Nidoqueen with our Umbreon. Do get the shield, and then I thought I had actually built up the double foul plays, so I'm trying to switch out here, and it just took me such a long period of time. So this Ninetales actually has a charge move ready to go, so this time we are going to have to shield. And we did go ahead and queue up the Crunch, so we did get an extra Poison Jab in here, which might make the difference as well. So we do end up taking that matchup with a Crunch ready to go for whatever else comes in. Should have waited to see what was coming in before I hit that Crunch, but I was super paranoid that it would die beforehand, and then we just barely don't get to that Sludge Bomb. So I felt like it would have helped, but it's not a huge deal. We do have our Ninetales coming in on the Umbreon. I'm not too worried about whatever move Umbreon throws on us. Even if it's Last Resort, it's not going to do too much. And then we know the Nidoqueen is going to come right back in. A lot of players like to switch right after they do a charge move. So wasn't able to get this foul play off before the Earth Power, so I do spend a shield in there. I'm pretty close to the giving end of having 1 HP left on Umbreon. And then his Umbreon's going to come in, and then we're going to be able to farm it down with the Ninetales. This Last Resort is not going to kill us. Foul play. So it's actually foul play. But if it was Last Resort, it still wouldn't kill us. So the venue was really nice too. It was at basically like a retro arcade bar place. So not a drinker, but for those of you that were, or for those of you that are, it's a really cool place to go. They have a whole bunch of different drinks on tap, and then they have classic like pinball games and the old school arcade games. It's kind of like a Wreck-It Ralph place for like adults. But here we're in a pretty positive lead matchup against Vaporeon. We're not going to care too much about what it does. We do have to save our I'm sorry, our Ninetales for the Umbreon. So we do swap out. And this is what I was hoping would happen whenever I would lead a Alolan Ninetales and they didn't lead Nidoqueen. If they led Nidoqueen, it'd be pretty hard to come back from. But if they didn't lead Nidoqueen, I figured that they were going to switch in the Nidoqueen into my Alolan Ninetales, and I could switch into Sandslash. And Sandslash would be able to like spend one shield, defeat the Nidoqueen, and have plenty of energy for the next Pokemon, and it can do pretty well against. It can actually do pretty well against Umbreon. It can do well against Skunk Tank because it resists those poison jabs so well, and it can do a decent amount of damage to the water. So it's a situation like this where they bring in their Alolan Ninetales and it does resist the charms, so I'm able to do a decent amount of damage with Bulldoze and get a few of those off. So Alolan Sandslash just absolutely putting in work there. We switch into Umbreon. Umbreon basically acting as a shield because of how bulky it is. And we're going to build up a bunch of energy. I do get hit by Hydro Pump, which is just, oh my gosh, crazy. But like Umbreon just takes it like a champ, and then it has plenty of energy left for this Ninetales actually. So I probably should have double foul played here, I think, because I don't get to another foul play. Or maybe I do. Yeah. So I guess it was okay to use Dark Pulse there. But it does reveal that I don't have the move. But I think this was the second game, and I figured that I'd be able to win it. And I don't even know if I've used... No, I did use Ninetales. So my Ninetales still has some health left to charm down their Ninetales. So we go ahead and take that. And then every single game, I did do a round 3 match with my opponents. Just to kind of like, try some different things out, or, try and be a little bit more prepared for the next opponent. So I felt like things that I did in practice kind of hindered me in the tournament because I didn't use Nidoqueen very much in the tournament. I didn't use Bibarel very much in the tournament, and my opponents did. They used those Pokemon a lot, and it's intended to kind of come back to haunt me. Where it's like, man, my Nidoqueen doesn't do very much work, and then their Nidoqueen would do a ton of work. But here in this situation, I don't think he had a super hard counter for Alolan Sandslash, so I wanted to build up to that Earth Power and switch out, and then just do as much damage as I could with Sandslash. So I did like Sandslash on my team. I just felt like I didn't utilize him very well, with Bibarel or with Nidoqueen, in situations where I could have done that. So in a couple, I am going to do a few more tournaments for Ferocious Cup this month, but not too, excited about them, I guess I would say, because, it's not the most exciting cup for me. But it is different, a lot of times you just have, these are the types that you can use, these are the Pokemon that you can't use, and then this time it's literally hey, these are the Pokemon that you can use, and that's it. And then once the meta settled down, it was literally there's 10 different Pokemon that you can use. Basically, 3 mandatory Pokemon, being Nidoqueen, not Nidoqueen necessarily, but Umbreon, Alolan Ninetales, and then an anti-Charmer. So, and most people pick Nidoqueen for that. And then a Water Gunner is almost necessary too. So Bibarel is almost necessary unless you like Vaporeon better. So here we end up doing the Earth Power, and so this is where I'm on the end where I come out ahead with this, and you'll see what happens against that boy Muck. It was pretty much the exact same situation, but on from his point of view. So we do go ahead and we go up 4-2, and then we're facing that boy Muck in this was 8 rounds, so this would be the 6th round. or the 7th round. So we do get the lead. We have the Umbreon on the Bibarel. We're going to go ahead and queue up the foul play and either Surf or Hyper Fang. We're not going to really care about that move. And then we are able to get the foul play off. And then hopefully go for another one. Yep. Where he does get an extra water gun in there. It's not a huge deal. And we're going to go ahead and build up to that 3rd foul play. But not before it gets to its 2nd Surf. I probably shouldn't have shielded here. Hyper Fang. I probably should not have shielded there. And then I make a huge mistake here. I should have switched into the Alolan Sandslash instead of Nidoqueen. And then I don't shield I was like, I don't know why I didn't shield, but then I'm like, wow, Flamethrower. I was like, that's going to kill my Alolan Sandslash. And then it's not Flamethrower this time. So it was like, it's literally, it was crazy. It was almost like he was wanting me to switch that Alolan Sandslash into the Skuntank. And then I'm just going to be like, well, neither of these moves are really going to hurt me. And then Flamethrower would just one-hit kill that. But instead it one-hit kills my Ninetales. So very good play in that boy Muck. Very good usage of a move that's not necessarily like part of the meta. And here we end up in the situation again with the Umbreon in the mirror match where I don't have Last Resort. So it's pretty much GG's at this point. So there's just nothing that I can do. I mean, he had an energy and health advantage anyways. So it wouldn't have mattered too much. I don't think. I don't know. It's hard to tell when you're never in that situation because you can't possibly be. Yeah, I mean, like if I had Last Resort, I probably still could have came back from that because how much health does Umbreon have? Like it'd probably be within knockout range of the Ice Punch, at the very least. Although he does still have this Bibarel, I thought I could farm it down and that would be my only shot and possibly hit a Bulldoze on the Umbreon, but it was not the case there. So I did lose. It was actually closer than I thought it was for that battle, but we're going to go ahead and check out his team again and try and make some adjustments. So I did really like Alolan Sandslash against this team because he had Shelgon as well on it. So he's basically trying to like make people not run water types. So this time I'm going to double up on the Nidoqueen counters and run Alolan Ninetales because he's definitely liking that Umbreon. And he could possibly bring that Shelgon. And then big shout out to that boy Muck for hosting this tournament or promoting it, and it was the biggest tournament in the United States, I believe, so far. This is absolutely awesome. So here we do catch the lead. He brings in Nidoqueen, which is awesome. So we'll switch in Bibarel, which is exactly what we wanted to happen with this lineup. And we are going to shield this first Earth Power, and then we're going to go ahead and farm up and. I think I was thinking about farming it up completely, but I was like, I do need to put some shield pressure on. So put some shield pressure on the Nidoqueen, and then I'm going to shield again, and then I'm going to just go ahead and farm this thing down and have a Surf or Hyper Fang ready for basically whatever else is going to come in, and it's going to drop a shield on that one as well. So it is Skuntank, so we should be able to get to another Surf just before fainting. And we lose the CMP tie. Again, what do you know? Crunch is going to take us out, and then we're going to bring in our Ninetales and faint down the Skuntank, and then be able to do a ton of work on the Umbreon as well. We do have an Ice Beam, so I wanted to go ahead and burn that last shield for my Sandslash in the back, and he's going to have to use all of his energy or basically just die at this point. So I think I just decided to go for fast moves. and hope that he's in charm range once Alolan Ninetales comes back in. Nope. I go for Ice Punch. I'm not sure why. Maybe I thought I had enough for double Ice Punch there, or I could get to another one, and I do before being fainted down. So we do take the second match against that boy Mike, which is something that I was told to cherish forever, according to people in the live stream chat that I was watching for the team battles that happened the next day, which was really awesome too. I hope to be a part of something like that in the Monster Ball draft, so stay tuned for that. Is where we're going to, there's a group of us that are all mutual ultra friends, and we're going to do a draft, and we're teamed up with a partner, and we're going to do some battles that way and see who can take the victory. So here I lead Nidoqueen into his Nidoqueen. So we're going into a similar situation, and both of us know how to queue up the charge moves. So I'm going to queue up the Earth Power, and we're basically just waiting for the other person to flinch. That boy Muck goes ahead and does his first. So he's going to go ahead and hit that. And I guess what I probably should have done is stayed in here for a second, but we both auto-switch. I switch into Bibarel against Skuntank, which is a good advantage for me. So we're going to go ahead and let this first crunch come through, and he does get an extra poison jab in there. So unfortunately, he gets an extra poison jab there, so I don't know if he gets to another charge move because of that. He doesn't. But my health is a little bit lower, so hopefully we can get to this surf before we die. I'm just absolutely just tapping away on it. We do get to the surf right before we die, because Snarl does not do that much damage from Umbreon, and we are able to get a few more water guns in. We do have the Alolan Ninetales, and then he gets, so I think he got a poison jab or two extra in there, maybe one. And then he gets one there too when I do my charge move. So then we're building up here, and he gets to his just before me. And the Earth Power takes out my Nidoqueen, and then I'm going to have Psyshock to go ahead and kill his Nidoqueen. And then I'm hoping at this point that the Umbreon is in farm down range and I have a ton of health left. And just watch how much of a difference having Last Resort makes. Boom. It just does that much damage. And then he has a foul play and it ends up killing me there. So just enough. But absolutely awesome games played. And congratulations to that boy Monk. I think he ended up going like 3rd or 4th in the tournament as well. So then in the last round, I face off against Kaiser Niner. Lead with Umbreon against Umbreon. And this is going to show you the difference between Last Resort and not Last Resort. So I'm going to go ahead and queue up the foul play. And we're just basically going to wait. I think I hit max energy first. So foul play goes off. Off goes his Last Resort. And then he's going to do Last Resort again. And then I'm going to foul play. And here you can start to see the difference between this. So like losing the mirror match on purpose to farm up with your next Pokemon. And then losing because you don't have Last Resort is just an absolute huge difference. Like, how much health difference is there going to be when this Umbreon goes down? I decided to shield to save my Umbreon and for later with some energy. Swap into Alolan Sandslash. I should have probably swapped into my Ninetales, but it doesn't really matter at this point. He's just so far ahead because he's done a ton of damage, and he's still on his first Pokemon, and we're just trying to catch up at this point. So in comes another foul play, and I think he's just going to be able to take out my Sandslash with his Umbreon. So like he didn't even have to swap out. Like his Umbreon having Last Resort made that much of a difference. Because now he's going to have Nidoqueen. And if I swap out, I'm going to lose. Because he'll be able to bring Nidoqueen back in. And then like a really good move on his part, he swapped out the Nidoqueen before I could Psyshock it. And then I'm trying to switch back into my Umbreon, and it doesn't let me, and I'm just getting extremely frustrated at this point. And the Sludge Bomb is definitely going to, really hurt me. And then I think he has enough energy on his Ninetales to go ahead and take me out with an Earth Power. He doesn't even have to. So just really good play on his part. It was still a competitive battle, but in the end, do you want a competitive battle or do you want like an opportunity to win? Or I should say an opportunity or like a chance to win the matchup by having the right moveset. So it was kind of unfair for Soph to basically announce the list of this, or create this list of Pokemon without factoring in the fact that some players would have an Umbreon with Last Resort and some would not. Legacy moves have been a thing in these Sylph Cups in the past, but they have not been this prevalent, where the Pokemon that was absolutely necessary, or the Pokemon that's at the top of the meta. I wouldn't say Umbreon is absolutely necessary, but like it is the meta-defining Pokemon, and without everybody having available access to that move means that they should have either not included Umbreon on the list, or they should have allowed other Pokemon that could counter Umbreon better than just a Alolan Ninetales. So one of the only Pokemon that could straight up counter it was a Alolan Ninetales, or you would have to have a shield advantage or energy advantage or both with other Pokemon in order to beat Umbreon. So the people that had it would beat those that didn't in a mirror match every single time. They could also play around the fact that you didn't have it, and when you don't have it, you have to play a certain play style. You have to save your Alolan Ninetales. You have to make sure your Umbreon doesn't get lined up incorrectly. Things like that. So, unfortunately, I was on the end where I don't have one, and I feel like a lot of people were. But almost everybody I faced in this Richmond tournament did have it. So can you imagine the turnout that it would have had if they would have banned Umbreon, or they would have included some other Pokemon that could handle Umbreon a little bit better. So that's it for the Richmond Cup tournament. Congratulations to Fly Eagle. Thanks again to That Boy Muck and the Richmond, Virginia PvP area for hosting the tournament. I had a great time at it, and hopefully in the future, maybe I can make the trip again for a cup that seems to be a little bit more fair or a little bit more enjoyable. But until then, I will see you guys in the next video. Please make sure you hit that like button. Comment below if you think that the Ferocious Cup is unfair, or your thoughts on the prevalence of Last Resort on Umbreon in the cup.